And welcome to the live stream, folks. We're going to be talking everything from climate change and reindeer to hardcore cosmology, as well as the regular old everyday space weather that we do every day. We might even mention changes coming to the channel. And so there's a lot of stuff to cover, and it's time to start screen sharing. Welcome all you ungooglables. For being ungoogleable, we thank you. We're looking at the sun on 193 angstroms here. Two massive coronal holes following a massive plasma filament located right here. As this coronal hole leaves the Earth-facing region, a whole bunch of features cracking right now, as well as the North Pole coronal hole looking pretty large and pretty in charge. Let's look at colored magnetogram here to check on how that plage is coming out polarity-wise. And there is a large filament again in between those coronal holes. Give you some view of that in 304 angstroms. As well as some filaments dancing around the limbs. So there are potential coronal mass ejection situations going on here, folks. And let's just move on to more data, as there's a lot of stuff to cover. Here's a synoptic map. We've changed around the links in the description below the video, so check that out there, if you please. Here's the real-time solar wind. And we see the BZ has recently gone into positive territory. That's a good sign for those folks in earthquake-risky areas. Phi angle at about 100 degrees. Solar wind density very low. Solar wind speed recently ramped up to 350 kilometers per second, as we saw it below 300 a couple of days ago. Also 10.7 centimeter radio flux back down to 66, so legit solar minimum conditions. Here's where the planets are and so forth. There's where they'll be in 7 days, if you care. Next, we're going to look at Stereo A's coronagraph. This located behind Earth, orbitally speaking, or ahead of the Earth in terms of getting solar weather. So we do see a large plasma plume there on the non-Earth facing side, which would be screen left. Giant plasma plume here. As far as what's facing the Earth, just a pulsating region there, being held in place by that active plage right in between those coronal holes. Next, we're going to the magnetosphere movies. And I swear it's going to load. First, we'll look at the density and then the pressure, as we see a very low solar wind density and a fairly low speed too. And some oddities there going on. Check it out. I've never seen a configuration like this before at all. There's a weird low density zone here shown in the equatorial plane view. That is a new one on me. This 4 hours of data provided by University of Michigan Geospace Model. So that's a very odd configuration there. Let's look at the pressure, which we expect to be very low. So seeing a very weak magnetosphere about 1 to 2 days before that coronal hole wind stream arrives from the first coronal hole. Should be a pretty significant shock when that hits, and we will try to cover that live. We'll also look at the ground geospace magnetic perturbations, as the Earth has probably something like tens of thousands of magnetometers across the planet. Now, this is also created using the space weather modeling framework. Links below to this page. If you want to see the space modeling framework, just go to this page and scroll down, click details, and the site will direct you to another page, which will tell you all about the space weather modeling framework. Welcome to the polar excursion of the Neo-Renaissance. As physics gets rewritten, current passes through the planet. It becomes evident to everybody. And we have two North Poles and a creeping South Pole drifting into the southern Indian Ocean. If you're interested in what's going on above your head, as I typically am, check out in-the-sky.org. Make yourself a sky map. Now, I'm located in eastern Pennsylvania. And if you've got a low horizon, Mercury's rising, and you won't be able to see it because it's right behind the moon. Check out the smAsho mission. Links to this also in the description below the video. Please support the channel. Maybe join the $1 tier on Patreon, the only tier that currently exists. One day coming soon, these live streams will only exist on Patreon, and you'll only get small clips on YouTube. Sorry, folks. Google doesn't pay us anything. We're going to make another tier on Patreon soon for $10. That'll be the realer than real content. Also, if you're in the market for CBDs, check out our spaced out hemp lucid campaign. Links below the video to that as well. Now, you ever heard of sprites? Sprites are high altitude lightning crossing the thermosphere mesosphere barrier in that portion of the upper ionosphere, mid and upper ionosphere. They look like pink or blue usually, and you got to be about 90 kilometers away to see one. Links to this diagram also. This is derived from spaceweather.com. The original site that I started following space weather and studying the sun in depth back in about 2002. KP index has come off the floor to 1. X-ray flux is totally flatlined as it's been for weeks. And we're seeing a slow ramp up in electron flux here. Again, coronal hole wind stream to arrive in 24 to 36 hours, in my opinion. It's going to be a big, heavy one because that coronal hole was right on the equator. Magnetometer is looking at like it's smoothing out into a mid-range here, more of a nominal range on the magnetometer there. As the current sheet sector polarity boundary crossing appears to have been completed, but it's not going to last long. We'll show you the Gong 2 in a minute. First, we're going to look at the ionosphere map. Links to this also now in the description below the video. Australian Government Bureau of Meteorology site. Going to look at the last 6 hours, and then we're going to switch to the latest image. Now, the nighttime side is looking pretty discharged right now. The daytime side is looking pretty charged, not particularly anomalous. And the last frame is 8:15. Nope. 9 o'clock UT is the last frame. There's the last frame. Ramping down a little bit on the daytime side. Nothing too noteworthy there. Here's the Gong 2 data. I'll make sure we have the latest. We like to look at the top view ecliptic plane field plot. And we're expecting continued smoothness in the GOES magnetometer despite these active regions here, as this plasma is very bunched up. So it's going to take a while to get to any big striations in the GOES magnetometer, except for associated with the protons in that coming solar wind stream. We're going to see a coronal hole wind stream hit that is going to play a little havoc with the GOES magnetometer, so look for that in the next, again, 24 to 36 hours. If you want to see some other stuff, content, follow us on Instagram.
It's a sad view sunrise as I'm singing into your face. A sad view sunrise.
Yeah, so follow the hashtag side view sunrise. You see all of my side view sunrises on Instagram. Oh, somebody else is doing it. Check it out. This guy's from North Albany, Oregon. Nice. Well done. Well done. Makes me want to get a bigger side view mirror. Haha. Anyway, follow that hashtag on Instagram if you like, or just follow instagram.com/smAsho. Not all space weather content there, just random stuff. Also, check us out on Gab, gab.com/smAsho, which I swear to you will load. In the meantime, just be ungoogleable. I'll try to go through the comments. Thanks for leaving comments, folks. Even if you're not viewing the live stream, we promise we read them all, even though we can't respond to everyone. Check us out on Gab, gab.com/smAsho. Also, minds.com/smAsho. Minds.com/smAsho. Minds.com, by the way, is the future of social media. It's open source. It's not going to censor you. It's not going to attempt to be a political hack organization like some big tech companies, as we've covered over and over and over again on here. Anyway, I won't display that because, yeah, but guess who's on there? Project Veritas is on there. We got to reach out to Project Veritas one of these days, as we've been screaming about Google since 2016. And I stopped using Google as a search engine around 2011. Thanks, YouTube subscribers, as we continue to bleed subscribers. We've been going nowhere but down, folks. Nowhere but down. Here's your earthquake rundown. We do this every day. I'm going to do it as fast as possible. Here's a 4.5 in Argentina. That one's at depth. Heads up for a larger quake there. 4.8. That one is in Indonesia, Western Indonesia. We also see a 4.5 at El Salvador, 5.7 at Japan. That's the largest one we've seen for a while. Looks like around the same area as we saw, what was that, a 6.3 yesterday or 2 days ago? I can't remember, folks. It all blends together to me. Northern Mariana Islands, deep quake there, kind of out in the middle of nowhere. Here's a very deep quake at Fiji, over 600 kilometers and a 5.3 magnitude. Shout out Oceania. 4.9 in Japan, 4.3 in Japan, 4.6 out in the end of the Aleutian Islands. I know there are some volcanoes out there, and also a 4.9 at Indonesia. Earthquake rundown complete. Volcano rundown to follow. Today's list includes Shivaluch, which is still exploding out there on the Kamchatka Peninsula, producing a 13,000-foot ash plume. Sakurajima, 4,000-foot ash plume there. Shanjiang Api, 8,000-foot ash plume there as explosive activity continues. Tukono, continuous emission with a 6,000-foot ash plume. Popocatépetl, 21,000-foot. Ravenador, 16,000-foot plume. And lastly, Sabancaya, please do not attempt to broad jump Sabancaya's caldera. It's producing a 22,000-foot ash plume and exploding. May not be the funnest place to have a picnic. Southern jet stream is highly meridional and doubled up in various spots, causing people to freak out about cold air and warm air in places where it doesn't belong in southern hemisphere winter. Northern hemisphere jet stream is governed by convective forces instead of a stable wind current. As you can clearly see, shout out to any pilots watching the video. Check out that cyclone over the U.S. Big anticyclone over the U.S. right now, dispersing cold air as well as hot air into weird places. The jet stream is what's causing the climate change, folks. The jet stream. We've left links to Null School as well as to this Zoom of Greenland as we talk about climate change. Oh my gosh, there's only 185.2 inches of snow there. 187.6 inches there. More than 5 meters over there. Looks like a bunch of snow on sea ice down here, but only 146 inches. Yeah, so it doesn't look like Greenland's melting. Let us know if you see sea levels rising, folks, since they're not. Let's talk about some dead reindeer. This article on Science Alert is going to talk about climate change. Yes, yes. And even this even Science Alert is unable to try to blame global warming for this. So for that, we thank you. Turns out these reindeer suffered a lean winter, starving to death because of a food shortage. See, that's what the cold does, folks. And they actually break it down in the article, amazingly enough. Now, they still do slip in stuff about warmer weather can result in a longer breeding season, which they usually do get that warmer weather in the summertime when it stays light all day long, all 24 hours long in Svalbard, because it's in the Arctic. But at least they talk about inability to break through ice and get to food, which is the real reason why they starve. Oh boy, the food shortage, the ecologists believe, was brought about by temperatures in the Arctic. This results in higher rainfall during winter, which freezes, producing a hard, thick layer of ice. I don't know if you're aware of that, folks. When it gets colder, it gets icier, and then it gets harder to find food. Crazy science going on. Now, we have some pretty obvious Sasquatch-based dimensional portals going on here, very close to where I am. I may have to venture into New Jersey and see if I see any Sasquatch portals opening there based on this Doppler radar data. Pretty sure there are some Sasquatch farts going on there. Did we lose it? Okay, so there's one around Binghamton, New York, as well as one on the tri-border of Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Iowa, right around that area. If you're in that area and you see a Wookiee fall out of the sky, please leave a video. There's a lightning map. Check out lightningmaps.org next time you hear thunder, if you feel inclined. Here's a U.S. water vapor map. We're just going to animate the whole thing. There we go. Let that play for a minute, and I will attempt to read your comments. Shannon Parsons says, basing theory on water 18 crystal recreating Neptune, Uranus core environment in a stasis, hydrogen liquid in oxygen lattice, solid temporal and mass reduction could make a beam like tractor gravity ray. Okay. Got it. Thanks for that comment. And we do see a massive anticyclone centered over the Four Corners region of the West. Let's zoom in on it. See if anything funky is going on there. We try not to do too much weather pornography, folks, but when you see a clockwise rotating system of winds, it's an indication of positive charge and lots of protons and anticyclonic behavior. So basically, we have a convergence here where this hot, dry air is actually taking over. Usually dry air is colder, but this is going to be hot, dry air in this case. Anyway, let us know if you know anybody in Colorado full of hot air. Now we've moved on to the that is an ass and that is a hole in the ground section of the video. Since Google is a scam, not a verb, thanks for being so ungoogleable. Check out this article from Babylon Bee, also linked in the description below the video. Hillary Clinton releases DNA test proving she's only half lizard person. Turns out the other half, Cylon. So we were able to get these pictures of her latest pantsuit. I'm not sure if she's going to decide to come out of the woodwork and run for president or not. We've got our fingers lost in a shop class accident. Japan approves groundbreaking experiment bringing human-animal hybrids to term. Links to this video also below the video there in the description box thingy, or whatever YouTube has decided to call it this for this 5-hour period of time. Not exactly sure what their aim is here. The goal is for the rodent embryo to use human cells to build itself a pancreas, and for 2 years, the team plans on watching these rodents develop and grow, carefully monitoring their organs and brains in the process. I can't think of anything that could possibly go wrong, although perhaps you'll need a pancreas one day, and it could benefit you. Let's talk about ravens, largely believed to be the smartest bird in the world. Now, we measure animal IQs by trying to figure out how many words they can recall. And it's not like they use language the same way as humans do. That's not the point. The point is just how many words they can memorize. But it turns out there are a lot of aspects associated with animal intelligence that are not measurable in such a way. For instance, the elephant has a massive temporal lobe, and it turns out that it's true. Elephants really never forget. Birds have a massive occipital lobe because they need really dense wiring in their brain in order to be able to fly around and not kill themselves. Anyway, ravens are a super smart bird. Don't be scared. They're fascinating to and fascinated by humans. So study ravens. I don't know, read the article. Check out this video I've known about for ages. You ever see a crow snowboard? Well, here it is. He's really snowboarding for real, folks. He does this several times. He's thinking about doing a different run here, but it looks like it's a little dried out. He's going to go back to his original run. He's like, I don't know. This run's a little slow, needs some grooming. Go back to the original run. That's the ticket. It's true. It's true. These birds also do things like use tools to open cages. If you give them a pen, they'll be able to get out of their bird cage, for instance. Talking about the Fed now, as we moved on to economics. Did Steve Leisman just expose the existential reason for a Fed rate cut? Well, let me just level with you. The reason the Fed is cutting rates is because the government's not going to stop spending, and the servicing on the interest on the debt is too high, folks. And since certain government officials refuse to reduce their spending, now the stock market wants a rate cut, and your stocks aren't going to go up because of this rate cut, folks. Now, part of the reason why the Fed changes interest rates that it doesn't really talk about is it attempts to manipulate the inflation rate. The Fed wants a 2 to 3% inflation rate. And anyway, just read the article. The article is largely correct. And since capitalism has not existed since 1913, the Federal Reserve Act ensured banking cronyism. The largest block of business on earth is international and corporate loans. If a banking cartel artificially controls those interest rates, would that be a free market? Which is why we should end the Fed, as markets should control interest rates, not banks. Welcome to the monopoly on your money. And since price tags and interest rates are not considered the same thing, price fixing goes on when it comes to loans. Gigantic mysterious radiation leak traced to facility in Russia. Yes, that's right, a bigger leak than Fukushima. We're not sure what happened. The Russians claimed it was from a satellite, but that was proven out. That was proven incorrect. So for some reason, they reduced a whole bunch of ruthenium-106, which is not the best chemical to have in a massive cloud over Europe. Anyway, links to this article from New Scientist also below the video. What's in your wallet? Is it Capital One? Well, guess what? A hacker gained access to personal information from more than 100 million credit applications. Oops. Links to this article also. Also links to this site. Chandra X-ray Observatory's 20th anniversary celebration page. The highest resolution X-ray telescope ever made. Check out the composite wide field view of the Milky Way galaxy. Now, I'm not even sure if that's going to load because that's a TIFF, which means it's probably a ridiculously huge file. Oh, there we go. Goodness gracious. Check it out. There you go, folks. Sagittarius A star. It's in there somewhere. The Vela pulsars over here. Another galaxy that we're going to cover, which is a blazar, is actually down here out of this field of view. Anyway, we have links to that article. That's from NASA's own site, but this will be all over the internet all day today. More articles about it, technology.org, etc. Physicists recreated the sun's strange spiraling magnetic field in the lab. This article on Science Alert, another plasma experiment, as they're trying to get ahead of the data coming back from the Parker Solar Probe. So another good article for you to understand. This will be all over the internet too. Thanks again for tuning into the smAsho stream. Although we are not complete yet, we're still talking about radio galaxies. One of the most massive radio galaxies with the longest jets ever seen. Link to this article also below the video. Galaxy 3C236. An in-depth analysis of this thing. And it's a giant radio galaxy to say the least. This one's radio lobes project 14.7 million light years. One of the largest known. Discovered all the way back in 1950. Let's look at another insane object. 3C454.3, a blazar. And what's a blazar? Well, a blazar is a massive object which you're looking right down the Z field of. Deneb is an example of this. But this is the most luminous object ever. So, Galaxy 3C454.3. And if you want to look at the transients for this, we do have the link to the Neil Gorell SwiftBat X-ray transient monitor page. You can monitor these yourself. And we also have links to this article and the wiki article. Let me show you the larger image here, show you where this thing's located. It's kind of out towards Cygnus. There's a reference to where Vela pulsar is located. And I think we've also got the Wikipedia article. I don't know if we put that in or not, but if you type in 3C space 454.3, you'll find all kinds of information. It's the most luminous astronomical object ever observed, with an absolute magnitude of negative 31.4. So super interesting object there that I just stumbled upon while looking at random stuff. And we're almost done here. We're going to look at cosmic rays and then go back. I mean, go back to the sun again. We see a recent spike here in Apatity as solar activity is super low, so no surprise there. Barentsburg showing a similar spike, but not as high overall levels. Let's go to Athens, Greece. You know where donuts were invented? In Greece. I don't know if you got that or not. It's not a very funny joke, though. There's the Athens neutron monitor. Nothing too exciting going on there. Let's look at Mexico City next. Mexico City is seeing a steady ramp up over the past 5 days. Moscow, what's going on there? It's not Russian fake news. It's a spike similar to Barentsburg and Apatity. I keep hitting the wrong button. I don't know what's going on. I'm short-circuited today, folks. Here's the Oulu, Finland monitor. Nothing too exciting there. There's DOMC Antarctica, and there's DOMB Antarctica. One of those only sending back partial data. Did they evacuate because of the Antarctican winter? Not sure. Now we're going back 9 hours of solar activity. We're going to look at it in 171 angstroms, my personal favorite, as it helps to show all those magnetic loops. You can see what the filaments are doing. We're going to zoom way in, as it's actually right in the center of the sun for once. I'll take this moment to say, hey, everybody, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for leaving a comment. If you enjoy the content, please support the channel, since Google doesn't and instead tries to shake us down for money. So there's the giant active plage right in the equatorial region of the sun. In between two sunspots, there's a filament. So despite there being, I'm sorry, not two sunspots, two coronal holes, despite there being very low solar activity, 0 sunspots, 10.7 centimeter radio flux, all the way down to the minimum we typically ever see it at 66 solar flux units. Solar minimum conditions continue. So keep an eye out for that coronal hole wind stream 24 to 36 hours from now. And for you patrons, we are going to have constant alerts coming through whenever we get any alerts. You'll get them as fast as you get them from any place. We haven't even automated our systems yet, folks. So anyway, thanks again for tuning in. Please don't forget to press like, press subscribe if you enjoy the content. Please visit the links below the video, as there are links to practically everything we visited today, if not everything. And remember, since it'll never be now again, welcome to the Neo-Renaissance. May the solar wind be at your back and the atherosclerosis absent from your veins.